I have friends who worked in the prison service, and we've often had conversations about prison reform and the extraordinary way in which prisons are managed today, the understaffing, and so on. We live in a country that professes to believe in the possibility of redemption. That's the moral justification for prison, not simply punishment, but rehabilitation. So when we see the Justice Secretary standing expressionless, or rather not expressionless, beside a team of officers firing tasers into the chests of simulated inmates, the message is clear. This is not about reform. It's about fear, control, desperation. And we need to understand what's happening. Violence in prisons is at a record high. Over 10,600 assaults on staff were recorded in the past year alone. And these include horrific incidents, hot oil attacks, stabbing with improvised weapons, hostage scenarios. In response, the Justice Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has approved a limited trial of tasers in prisons, beginning with specialist operational response and resilience units in Oxfordshire and Doncaster. These units respond to the most violent incidents, riots, hostage situations, and mass disorder, and the officers are highly trained, use the same T7 tasers as the police, and operate under clear guidance. The idea, as Mahmoud put it, is to keep staff safe. A few would disagree with that aim, but it's the method that troubles many. The trial is legally sanctioned, tightly controlled, and initially reserved for elite units, but it sets a precedent, and Mahmoud herself said this is only the beginning. The implication is that if the data justify it, tasers could be rolled out more widely across the prison estate. And here is the problem. Tasers are not neutral tools. They are weapons that deliver 50,000 volts to the body. They can cause cardiac issues, trigger seizures, and produce deep psychological trauma. In the already volatile and overcrowded conditions of British prisons, currently at 99% capacity, this risks creating a militarized environment that undermines the core goal of rehabilitation. Officers themselves have warned of a fine balance. One admitted, once you arm officers, you lose that communication side of the relationship with the prisoner, and he's right. The more force you introduce, the more trust you extinguish, and this is not to deny the danger prison staff face. It's real, brutal, and unacceptable. But tasers are a knee-jerk response. They are reactive, not strategic. They address symptoms, not causes. Violence in prison rises because of overcrowding, understaffing, and deteriorating mental health services, not because staff lack enough weapons. And the inconsistency of incarceration. When you release somebody on clemency, like Mike Amesbury, the MP who assaulted one of his own constituents, not once but 6 times. He hit him in the dark when his back was turned, thumping, serious fisticuffs. When he's released after, 3 days because the judge says he's learnt his lesson, and yet someone like Lucy Connolly remains in prison, although we're told she's learnt her lesson too, there's something wrong. If one person has buddies who are in the House of Commons, who can have a nice word with the judge, I don't know if that's what happened, and there's clemency there, why is there not clemency in the case of Lucy Connolly? I'm not saying Lucy Connolly is some sort of martyr. I'm simply saying Lucy Connolly, who did something appalling and arguably incited a riot, or could have incited a riot, the same level of clemency should have been offered to her too, particularly given the overcrowding. It's overcrowding which is the point, and then violent offenders are released willy-nilly. Imagine what Elizabeth Fry would say, the 19th century Quaker prison reformer who walked among the female prisoners at Newgate, not with batons or armour, but with books, education and humanity. And she was on the back of one of our notes. She believed in the dignity of the imprisoned. She fought to make prisons places of hope. Tasers are not about hope, they're about control. And it's not a coincidence that this comes at a time of political pressure, when ministers want to appear tough on crime without investing in the reforms that reduce reoffending. The use of tasers may satisfy the tabloid reader and GB News, but it betrays a failure of imagination and policy. To protect prison officers is essential, but it must be done intelligently. Invest in de-escalation training, mental health support, better staffing ratios, improved prison conditions. Let tasers remain tools of last resort for the most extreme cases, not a creeping normality. Because once you accept that control must come at the end of a wire and a jolt, you've surrendered the very principles that make civilized penal incarceration, make this system worth defending. This may be a trial, but it feels like a verdict on where British justice is heading. And the look on the Justice Secretary's face suggests that even she knows it. Look at that picture. I'm using it as a thumbnail, by the way. And it comes from the picture in the Times today. It's also reprinted in GB News.